A young mother disappears in Arlington, Texas. Few clues are left behind. When investigators discover a connection between the missing woman and two unexplained deaths, they suspect a serial killer is at work. Police detectives and a tireless district attorney team up to find and prosecute a career criminal. In this episode, some names have been changed. A disturbing link between several suspicious deaths alarms Coryell County District Attorney Sandy Gately. She will have to use the slightest evidence to ensure no other victims fall prey to a serial killer.
When you have someone that killed a long time ago, you think he's killed again and maybe a third time. The pressure comes on to do something about it, to look at that case, to try to build the evidence, because you know if you don't get him off the street now, he's going to do it again.
Located between the urban centers of Dallas and Fort Worth, Arlington, Texas is a diverse suburb community with a strong economy and a low crime rate. On the night of October 11, 1994, outside a fast food restaurant, 26-year-old Emolita Reeves pulled up with her girlfriend, Mona Lisa Domingo. Emolita was dropping Mona Lisa off at work before going out for the evening. Emolita left an impoverished life in the Philippines to come to the United States as a mail-order bride. She was the mother of a 3-year-old boy, but was unhappy with the arranged marriage.
Oh my gosh, you have to go. I'll take you next week, I promise.
What about picking me up tonight after work? Can we just do that and then
I don't know. I told Tony I'd meet him around 11:30.
Oh, at 11:30, yeah.
But call me anyway.
Well, thanks for...
It was around 8 o'clock when she dropped Mona Lisa off before going to meet her friend, Tony. She drove away, alone. By the next morning, Mona Lisa was worried. She had paged Emolita and called her cell phone several times the night before. There was no reply. Mona Lisa and another friend checked Emolita's house, but she wasn't there.
I'm telling you, something's wrong.
The women knew it wasn't like Emolita not to answer calls.
She said she was going to go see Tony, and that's the...
They believed something happened to her.
Talk every day. I've tried this so many times that I know I've never...
They checked other friends' houses, but found no sign of the young mother. After not hearing from her friend for 24 hours, Mona Lisa filed a missing persons report with the Arlington Police Department.
Yes, how you doing?
Our friend is missing.
She explained what had happened, that Emolita had dropped her off on Tuesday, then seemed to disappear.
E.M.
None of their friends had heard from her, and her truck was gone.
And what's your last name?
Reeves. R-E-E-V-E-S.
Okay.
Arlington police detective Buddy Evans learned the friends had an agreement to be in constant contact with each other for safety.
She just vanished. It was one of those deals where her friends were concerned about her welfare. Emolita had told them in the past if she ever came up missing, didn't answer her cell phone, they couldn't find her, couldn't locate her, that they should call the police.
That evening, Arlington police officers were dispatched to Emolita's home. There was no answer at the door, and the house looked empty. As they checked the area for Emolita's truck, the front door opened. The man identified himself as Jack Reeves. He was the husband of the young mail-order bride. The officers asked about Emolita, explaining that her friends had filed a missing persons report. Reeves said he saw her the night before. She went out to a club to meet someone. When asked why he hadn't reported her missing, he said it was common for him not to see her for days at a time.
Emolita's fine, trust me.
But she would always check in on her son, and she always returned.
And I really need to get him back inside. Okay, sir.
Without a warrant, the officers could not do anything more.
Okay, sure.
You have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks.
They left to file their report. The next day, Emolita's friends located her truck and alerted police. Officers responded to a parking lot behind a store, 2 miles from Emolita's home, where the truck was parked. It was a store Emolita frequented, according to her friends. Several things about the vehicle were suspicious. Friends told police Emolita always locked the doors, left the steering wheel in the up position, and carried a child seat inside. But police noted the driver's door was unlocked, and the alarm was not set. The steering wheel was down,
Child safety seats home.
and the child seat was missing.
Page 12, have you received a return on this vehicle?
The driver's seat position also indicated someone other than Emolita left the truck there.
The seat was way far back. Emolita was very small in stature. If it would have been a deal where she had driven the vehicle to the location, got out, and was abducted, the seat should have been pulled up closer where she could use it to actually drive the vehicle.
Police hoped someone in the area spotted whoever parked the truck. They talked to employees at the store where the truck was parked. They noticed the vehicle that morning, but no one saw anything unusual.
Seen anybody since then?
I haven't seen anybody at all.
And no one saw Emolita.
Have you worked every night?
Investigators searched the surrounding area for any sign of the missing woman, or anything that might indicate who had left the truck there. Despite their efforts, they found nothing relating to the case. That afternoon, Arlington police officers returned to Emolita's house to speak with the missing woman's husband. But Jack Reeves was not home.
Excuse me, miss. Hi. You know Jack Reeves who lives here?
A neighbor reported seeing Reeves drive away with his son earlier that morning.
He was pulling a trailer.
She said he was hauling a trailer, and it looked like he was going camping.
What's your name?
Ashley.
Troubled by the discovery of Emolita's truck, Detective Evans met with homicide detective Tom Lenore, a 14-year veteran of the Arlington Police Department.
Anytime there is a missing persons report where there is some evidence of foul play, it's the procedure here at the Arlington Police Department to immediately notify the Homicide Division.
Learning about Emolita, Lenore agreed that foul play was probably involved in her disappearance.
The best way to describe Emolita is that she was a creature of habit. She became a creature of habit where if anyone called her, she would immediately call back, either by the telephone or the cellular phone. Through this habit, Emolita was virtually at anyone's beck and call at any time. She wouldn't answer her pager, and she wouldn't answer her cellular phone, and that was completely uncharacteristic of her.
The young woman could have left on her own, but she might have been kidnapped or killed. Arlington police entered Emolita's disappearance into the National Crime Information Center computer. The posting carried Emolita's photo, description, and facts of the case. If Emolita, or her body, showed up anywhere in the country, Arlington police would be notified. Emolita's friends also did what they could to find her. They organized to offer a reward for information on her whereabouts.
As a matter of fact, they were so concerned about her. I mean, they were even making flyers and putting them up around the area, have you seen this person, so on and so forth. And so they were very helpful and very concerned about her welfare.
From interviews with friends, detectives Lenore and Evans learned Emolita was romantically involved with Mona Lisa, the last person known to have seen the missing woman. They needed to interview her.
You know, when someone is missing and you believe you have a homicide, we want to see what kind of motive. What is our motive? If there were any motive whatsoever, it has something to do with an emotional or romantic relationship with Emolita. That is the nucleus of our motive. We saw no other motive for Emolita to be missing or to have been murdered.
The detectives met with Mona Lisa Domingo. She said Emolita had come from a very poor family in the Philippines, hoping to raise her children in America.
Well, I mean, the main thing that
She had applied for a green card, but did not receive it yet. When pressed for details about their relationship, Mona Lisa admitted she was in love with Emolita. But she swore she hadn't seen her since being dropped off for work. Although she did not approve of Emolita's marriage, she said she would never harm her girlfriend.
Where Mona Lisa became the most important witness at this point in time was she was the last person to have seen Emolita alive. When Emolita took her to work at the restaurant where Mona Lisa was employed. She was also the individual who tried to call Emolita that evening and didn't get a response from her, and started the campaign on trying to find her. She was very honest. She was very upfront.
Her alibi checked out. Police felt it was unlikely Mona Lisa was involved in her friend's disappearance. She told them about Tony Rivera, the man Emolita was supposed to meet the night she vanished.
Tony was a potential suspect in this investigation, simply because of the relationship between him and Emolita.
Investigators talked to Tony's boss, who let them use his office to interview the young man. Tony told them he and Emolita often spent time together.
There was a platonic relationship that we knew of for sure, and we knew that Emolita definitely had a romantic crush on Tony. What makes Tony different than all of her other friends is he's a male, number one, and number two, because there is a potential romantic involvement in the two of them. And it's also a romantic involvement, if it occurred, that would be one that would obviously have conflicts, simply because Emolita is married. It has the ingredients for what we've seen in the past that certainly could have turned into a murder or a homicide, no doubt about it.
The detectives asked Tony about the night in question.
Then she was supposed to come to a club and meet me.
He said that night he and Emolita were supposed to meet at a club. Eventually, he called her cell phone and got no answer. He paged her repeatedly, but she never responded. After several hours, he gave up and went home. Detectives asked Tony to complete a timeline of his actions.
Like right away.
What did you do the next day?
The next day, I came to work around 9 a.m. I couldn't get in touch with her. I couldn't reach her. So I think that's about it.
Tony was fully cooperative, answering the officer's questions and agreeing to take a polygraph examination. But the investigators noted gaps in his timeline.
Not really a suspect at this time.
They needed to confirm his alibi. They interviewed Tony's coworkers, family members, and the friends he shared with Emolita, asking questions about the suspect's actions on the days surrounding Emolita's disappearance.
At least, 5 years maybe?
With each interview, more of Tony's story was corroborated.
Any evidence of violence?
They sent officers to the club Tony mentioned. People there said they hadn't seen Emolita in several days, but they confirmed Tony was there, alone, on the night in question.
You know, you have to maintain the integrity, you have to take all the possibilities, address them, and either confirm or exclude. And in this particular case, Tony was excluded. He was not excluded on his merit, he was not excluded on his word, he was excluded on fact.
Each of Emolita's friends had been cleared.
We wanted to make sure we covered all bases to eliminate anyone or anything that may have possibly been related to her disappearance.
The one potential suspect not cleared by police was the young woman's husband. They had to track down Jack Reeves and hope he could finally give them some answers. In Arlington, Texas, Emolita Reeves disappeared without a trace. 2 days later, police located her vehicle. There was evidence it had been driven by someone else. Detectives questioned several suspects, but eliminated them. They learned her husband, Jack, had left town. Looking for more information about Jack Reeves, investigators questioned even more of Emolita's friends. The friends confirmed that the marriage was troubled, according to Detective Buddy Evans.
We learned that Emolita was extremely unhappy in the relationship, and in fact wanted to get out of the relationship.
One friend said that on the day Emolita disappeared, she came to lunch with her son. Emolita told her friend she wanted to leave Jack because he was abusive.
I'm taking my son with me.
But she had not received her green card yet and was afraid of being deported if she got a divorce.
Out of control.
Then she might lose her son.
He doesn't mind about Mona Lisa. He's just really jealous because he thinks I'm seeing another man, but I'm not.
The young mother feared her husband was going to kill her and bury her in the woods, according to Detective Tom Lenore.
Emolita told several stories about her relationship with Jack that alarmed her friends, but when she would camp with Jack, she would describe how he would, just out of the blue, dig a large hole and not give any explanation for that hole whatsoever. And she had no understanding as why he would do that, but she was afraid of him. She was inherently afraid of Jack.
But she did not know what she could do.
In the woods by the lake.
According to her friends, Emolita had fled the Philippines because political unrest had made it dangerous, and she could not make a living there. She did not want to go back. Her friends told police Emolita warned them to look into Jack if she disappeared, or if she did not return a page immediately. The friend said Emolita hated going with Jack during his frequent camping trips to Lake Whitney, afraid he would kill her there.
All the ladies gave us information of why they believed that Jack was responsible for her disappearance, and that if anybody knew where she was, he would know where she was.
It was time for the Arlington police to talk to Emolita's husband, Jack Reeves. When he returned to Arlington, detectives asked Reeves to come in for an interview. They asked him why he did not report his wife missing. He claimed she had disappeared before, so he wasn't worried. She always came back.
What about the night you last saw her?
Reeves described the night he last saw Emolita.
Getting ready to go out?
He said that shortly after he came home, she got dressed up, then left him with their son.
Where are you going?
Just out with a friend.
He mentioned she took her cell phone with her. She did not say where she was going. He said that was the last time he saw his wife. Reeves refused to take a polygraph test, saying he was a naturally nervous person and could not trust the machine.
Let you have a copy.
But he agreed to sign a statement. During the interview, Reeves said something that struck the detectives as odd.
He made the off-the-wall comment, "If you find Emolita's body at Lake Whitney, are y'all going to blame me?" And that was extremely interesting because we weren't even at the level of Emolita's death yet. No one said anything about her dying, and no one certainly mentioned anything about Lake Whitney.
To further confirm their suspicions, detectives decided to set a trap for Reeves.
Really?
In this particular case, we had to take a chance. And so we used a series of bluffs with Jack.
Someone was dragged along.
They told Reeves they wanted to test his carpet for DNA.
Skin cells can
Bluffing, they said traces of DNA from a dragged dead body could be found, no matter how well the carpet was cleaned.
Although they're inadmissible in court, they mean absolutely nothing as far as evidence. It's almost like a polygraph examination. A polygraph examination has no evidentiary value whatsoever, But it tells me, hey, is someone telling the truth, someone lying?
You know, we can find samples.
Reeves then appeared worried.
You know,
He said he had been planning to replace his carpet.
a new carpet.
Okay, well,
The detectives asked him to hold off on the work for at least a week.
just in case we want a forensics labs to be able to test some of that.
He agreed.
We can tell you when
Okay.
you're free to do so.
Okay.
The trap was set.
We appreciate it.
Now police waited to see what Reeves would do.
Talk to you.
We set a surveillance team up on Jack's house because I wanted to see how he would react, what he would do.
Here he comes.
The very next day, Reeves hired workers to take out the carpet.
I recall early the next morning I got a phone call from one of the people on the surveillance team, and they said that Jack was had some people out there and was removing all of the carpet out of his house. And once again, although that is not solid evidence that someone committed murder, it tells me that we're on the right track with this man. Listen, an innocent man, from my experience, is not going to rip out his carpet if he has nothing to hide.
Detectives questioned one of the workmen. He said Reeves instructed him to dispose of the carpet and paid him extra to do it immediately. Because of Reeves' comment about Emolita's body and Lake Whitney, investigators searched the area.
We checked with cadaver dogs, looking for fresh burial areas in this park, so on and so forth. We did aerial searches in aircraft over the area looking, and did foot searches. And of course, you're talking about a tremendous amount of area to look.
The terrain was heavily wooded and hard to search. After checking areas where Jack normally camped, investigators still had nothing. There was no sign of Emolita, and no physical evidence of foul play. Hoping for more leads, detectives looked into the suspect's past. They discovered Reeves had been married twice before. He married his second wife, Myung Reeves, while stationed with the Army in Korea. Myung died while the couple was on a camping trip at Lake Whitney 8 years earlier. In 1986, park rangers responded to Jack Reeves' call that his wife Myung had drowned. At the time, Reeves told the rangers he left her alone for half an hour. When he returned, his wife had drowned in 3 feet of water.
When we talked with the police who investigated the death, they recall injuries to Myung. They recall bruises to her and injuries to her face.
But a justice of the peace issued a certificate stating the death was accidental, closing the case. Curious about what seemed a strange ruling, investigators tracked down Myung's sister.
I thought what was extremely revealing was when I talked with Myung's sister, the first words out of her mouth is that, you know, my sister was murdered. Okay. She recalled seeing Myung at the funeral home and seeing bruises to her neck and her face. She pointed that out to Jack. Interesting, the next day, Jack has the body cremated, while the sister is bringing up all of these questions.
The sister said Myung was planning to divorce Jack just before she died. Because of the mysterious fates of 2 of Jack Reeves' wives, investigators now looked into the death of his first wife, Sharon, which occurred 16 years earlier.
Our investigation also led us to the 1978 death of Sharon Reeves, which was reportedly a suicide. And we were really interested in this particular death simply because it involved a self-inflicted shotgun wound to her chest.
Detectives searched records and phoned Sharon's father.
Hello?
So I asked him, when was the last time you spoke with Jack Reeves? Are you seeing Jack? And his comments were, the last time I spoke with Jack and saw him was after he murdered my daughter.
Yes.
Sharon's father said that Jack was serving another tour of duty in Korea in 1978 when Sharon wrote to him that she wanted a divorce. Jack immediately took leave and returned to Texas. Days later, Sharon was dead.
Which tied in with the other wives in each of those cases. They were going to leave Jack. And so you start to put these things together and you start to think, well, maybe nobody leaves Jack voluntarily or through divorce.
Since Sharon Reeves died in her home in the city of Copperas Cove, the jurisdiction over the case rested 170 miles south of Arlington in Coryell County, Texas. The Arlington detectives met with Copperas Cove Police and the Coryell County District Attorney to see if the cold case warranted prosecution. The retired officers who investigated Sharon's death told them what they knew. 16 years earlier, they responded to a call of a suicide.
She's in the bedroom back here.
Jack Reeves led them into a bedroom where the body of his wife, Sharon Reeves, lay, covered in blood.
1111 dispatch.
As police checked for a pulse, nothing could have prepared them for what was about to happen. After the suspicious disappearance of Jack Reeves' third wife, Emolita, police looked into the death of his first wife, Sharon. Investigators revisited the 16-year-old case.
16 years ago, we got a call about a suicide. Responded to the scene.
One of the first officers on the scene, John Morrison, related the story to detectives Buddy Evans and Tom Lenore.
He was the eyes for Buddy and I. We actually relived that crime scene. We didn't need crime scene photographs because we had Johnny. And I thought he gave a very vivid, believable account.
Morrison said that on July 20th, 1978, he and his partner responded to a suicide call. Jack Reeves led them to a bedroom. He said he had been in the kitchen when he heard a gunshot. Then he found his wife, dead. The police approached Sharon Reeves, who lay on the bed with a shotgun wound to the chest. She was still alive. They called for an ambulance. But within seconds, Sharon Reeves breathed her last breath.
Stand right over here, please.
Yes, sir.
Efforts to resuscitate the 34-year-old woman failed. A coroner came to check the body. The Texas authorities believed the military man's story. Cause of death was listed as a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Suicide by shotgun. Investigators photographed the position of the body and gun.
It's for protection.
Reeves showed police several handguns he kept in the house. The officer wondered why Sharon used the long and heavy shotgun. Reeves claimed Sharon wrote a suicide note. It said she had fallen in love with another man and could not decide between them. So she was ending her life. It had been 16 years since Sharon's death, and nearly all of the evidence had been destroyed. Coryell County District Attorney Sandy Gately had only one piece of evidence, a single photograph of the scene.
The crime scene photo that we had in this case, the only photo available, showed Sharon Reeves basically laying on the bed with her legs dangling off the bed. She was completely undressed. Her arms were out to her sides and slightly up, and the shotgun was leaning against her left knee. There was considerable blood spatter, and it was easy to see the direction of flow of the blood across her entire body.
They needed an expert to evaluate the photograph. Gately contacted Tom Bevel, a world-recognized expert in blood spatter analysis and crime scene reconstruction.
There were some issues here that seem to be inconsistent with what I've seen in times past. I've not, to this date, actually worked a female suicide where the female was completely nude. Another issue was that her hair was still moist, as if she's through with her bathing for the day. I've not ever worked a suicide where somebody has cleaned themselves up, such as a shower or a bath, and then come out and immediately done a suicide. You, as a rule, do not find as many females that commit suicide with a firearm.
The 1978 report theorized Sharon sat on the bed and pulled the trigger with her toe. Checking the photo, Bevel noted the blood first ran down the length of the leg, indicating she was standing, then turned and ran sideways after she fell back. Bevel also questioned the placement of the gun.
Since it's definitely my opinion that she would have had to have been standing, the gun is going to be going in the opposite direction because there's no shoulder back there to help stop it from the recoil. Even if she holds on to the barrel long enough before she's losing consciousness and falling backwards, it still would not be drawn to the position with which we find it. It's virtually impossible for the gun to end up in the position that it does. Based upon my analysis of the photograph, my opinion is that the shotgun was triggered by some other person other than her, and that it would have been while she's in an upright position and whoever the shooter is also in an upright position.
With forensic evidence suggesting a homicide, prosecutors obtained permission to exhume Sharon's body, 16 years after she was buried. They hoped an autopsy would provide further evidence. After studying the entrance wound, the medical examiner calculated the angle of the fatal gunshot. He concluded it was highly unlikely the wound could have been self-inflicted, agreeing that Sharon most likely was murdered. Evidence was piling up that Jack Reeves was responsible for the deaths of 3 wives. Now authorities had to make a decision on which case to prosecute. Emolita's body had not been found. Myung's body was cremated after her suspicious drowning. Their best chance of a conviction was for the murder of Jack's first wife, Sharon, in Coryell County.
We traveled to Arlington that morning, I believe it was March the 23rd of 1995, and they were going to execute the warrants at his house. Arlington, in the meantime, had him tailed. They were keeping an eye out for him to make sure they knew where he was. They followed him to the post office that morning when they got the word to go ahead and arrest him.
When he got out of his truck to mail a letter, the police moved in.
Get Reeves, freeze! Get the wall, turn around! Get the wall!
Police confiscated the envelope Reeves was about to mail. Obtaining a warrant, they checked its contents.
Interesting enough, he was going to mail a letter to a new mail order bride. I thought that was rather intriguing, that and somewhat fitting that he was arrested for murder while trying to bring back another woman to the States.
They charged Jack Reeves with Sharon's murder, taking him off the streets before he could harm another woman. A search of his house produced no evidence relating to Sharon's death. His incarceration did not last long. A judge set bail at $300,000. Reeves made bail, and police had to release him to await trial. Days before the Sharon Reeves murder trial, there was a startling turn of events. A hunter walking through the woods at Jack Reeves' favorite camping site, Lake Whitney, made a grisly discovery. It would change the prosecution's plans and finally provide answers about a long-running mystery. In 1994, Emolita Reeves disappeared. Police suspected her husband, Jack Reeves, but had no evidence. Then, days before Reeves went to trial for the 1978 murder of his first wife, Sharon, an important discovery was made in the woods where he often camped. A year after Emolita vanished, a hunter found a skull and scattered bones near Lake Whitney, a place Emolita said she feared. Aware of the Reeves case, Texas Rangers reported the find to Arlington Police Detective Tom Lenore.
They had the anthropologist out there, and the preliminary findings was this was a young Asian woman. And I knew, I mean, very bold, but I knew it was Emolita. There was no doubt about it. That was Emolita.
Exposure to the elements and foraging animals reduced the body to a skeleton. Police needed to confirm the identity. A forensic odontologist made x-rays of the skull's teeth and compared them to dental records of Emolita Reeves. They were an exact match. Now prosecutors could charge Reeves with his third wife's murder. The discovery of Emolita's body changed the state's plan in their case against Reeves. A special hearing was requested by Coryell County District Attorney Sandy Gately, who was working the Sharon Reeves murder.
We made an attempt to try to see if our judge would allow Emolita Reeves' case to be tried first in Bosque County. They had a more recent case, a lot more evidence to prove it. If we were able to do that, then when we tried our case, we could introduce evidence of the conviction in the Emolita case to show the pattern, as opposed to having to go back and completely prove the Emolita case in our case. And that's what we had hoped we would be able to do.
With the trial of Sharon Reeves now,
Defense attorney Wes Ball protested the change.
We felt the better strategy was to try to force the Coryell County case to trial first, because we felt we were in the best position based on the evidence in that case. And so that's what we did. We opposed the continuance.
What I know about this trial, we're going to move forward and try this trial first. That's my ruling.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The defense prevailed, and Gately had no choice but to move forward with the Sharon Reeves murder case in Coryell County. The trial began on January 22, 1996, in the 100-year-old Gatesville, Texas courtroom.
This court's now in session.
Both sides gave opening statements. The district attorney told the jury she believed Jack Reeves shot his wife Sharon after arguing over a divorce. She claimed they would prove that the idea of Sharon killing herself with a shotgun was preposterous.
Had been married and divorced.
In his opening, the defense attorney contended that Sharon could not decide between her husband and another man. As a result, she committed suicide.
Coryell County on an emergency leave to try to save his marriage.
Beginning its case, the prosecution called John Morrison, the first responding officer to the scene 17 years earlier. The retired officer related how he found Sharon lying on the bed. When asked his opinion, he said he was not comfortable with the death being called a suicide. The defense immediately objected, claiming the officer's opinion was not fact. The judge sustained the objection, instructing the jury to disregard the officer's statement. The state passed the witness. Under cross-examination, the officer admitted his testimony was based only on memory. All of the Copperas Cove police reports were destroyed, with most of the evidence years earlier.
Well, have you gone back or attempted to find out whether such reports that you may have made exist?
Yes, sir.
And have you learned that they no longer exist?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The defense believed the original ruling at the time of Sharon's death was more accurate than witnesses' recollections.
The pathologist at the local Army hospital made an external examination of the body. It was the opinion that this was a suicide, and that was the ruling. And we were trying to suggest to the jury that they shouldn't question a ruling by people that there's been no information presented or incompetent to make these opinions and conclusions.
The state called the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Sharon's exhumed body.
I would say that the trajectory would be, gentlemen, something along
The witness testified that Sharon was 5 feet tall and had a reach of less than 20 inches.
Let's say we have
The bullet trajectory indicated the gun had been pointing down and slightly from the left.
approximately here, so that the
He believed the
trajectory
length and
again
weight of the gun and the angle of the wound made it highly unlikely that Sharon could have fired the fatal shot herself, suggesting a homicide. Under defense cross-examination, the medical examiner admitted that his official conclusion in the autopsy report was the category undetermined for Sharon's cause of death.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I got him to acknowledge that suicide could not be ruled out. I think the long and short of it was he thought homicide was more probable than suicide, but that suicide certainly could not be ruled out.
The prosecution's case had taken several damaging blows. Next, they called blood spatter expert Tom Bevel to the stand. He testified about his examination of the one surviving photograph of the scene.
That she was in a standing position at the time that she was shot. After receiving the shot, she fell over backwards onto the bed. It is my opinion that it is highly improbable that she is the person that actually triggered the firing mechanism. This is a close-up photograph of the thigh area, and what we have are 3 different blood runs that are going from the waist area toward the knee, as you would normally be in a standing position, which is what you would expect the blood to do if you're in a standing position and it hits that part of the thigh. But once the orientation has changed, consistent with that change in the orientation, the blood is going in the direction of the gravity flow, which at this point, once it has changed and formed kind of this L, she's laying on her back in a supine position against the bed. That actually activated the firing.
The state used Bevel's testimony to show the position of Sharon's body when the fatal shot was fired.
Sharon Reeves shot herself.
His testimony was very important because it was able to establish that Sharon was standing when the shotgun was pulled.
Or things such as most probable.
Questioned by Reeves' attorney, Bevel testified he usually worked with more than one black and white photograph of a crime scene.
Used in the practice of crime scene reconstruction.
So when you say most
He believed it was a homicide, but admitted that he could not completely exclude other possibilities, including suicide.
That's correct. The ultimate question, obviously, with that, couldn't my opinion possibly have been changed, or couldn't my opinion have been more firm if I had the additional opportunity to look at other angles of this scene? And I have to agree, yes, it is always better to have too many photographs from too many different angles as opposed to one single photograph from one angle and it being black and white.
To further explain the deadly gunshot, the state called Arlington police detective Buddy Evans. He had helped the prosecution stage a recreation of Sharon's alleged suicide.
I'm going to demonstrate to you now, or actually a model of.
To show the recreation to the jury, they used a model who was the same size as Sharon Reeves.
Her stature actually pull the trigger of this weapon.
The position of the fatal wound was marked on the model's chest. Evans explained that with the recreation, they could show that it was impossible for Sharon to have fired the gun herself. The detective positioned the model and the gun. Standing and holding the gun herself, she could not reach the trigger. Although the blood spatter analysis indicated Sharon was standing when she was shot, they had the model sit. Again, holding the gun up, the model could not pull the trigger. They then had her try it with the butt of the gun resting on the floor. Forgetting the direction of the entrance wound, she angled the gun incorrectly.
The model is there in the loudest quiet sound I've ever heard in a courtroom, because you can hear a pin drop and then suddenly click, click. And I think the prosecution was stunned.
The state worried that reasonable doubt had just entered the jurors' minds.
It was bad. When we heard the click of that trigger being pulled, I mean, I was sweating. I turned around and looked at my investigator, he looked at me, and we're like, you know, we just lost this case.
Jack Reeves was on trial for the murder of his first wife, Sharon. In an attempt to show the jury that Sharon Reeves could not have shot herself, the state used a model to demonstrate. But the model was able to reach the trigger. Prosecutor Sandy Gately determined the trigger pulled because the model positioned the gun in a manner inconsistent with the actual gunshot wound.
Once we realized that it was just a miscalculation, we went back and showed the jury and explained to them, this is the mistake we made. This is why the trigger was able to be pulled, and this is what happens if you use the correct angles. Then it was like night and day. That was the big turning point in the whole trial.
After closing arguments, the case went to the jury.
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
It was up to them to decide if Jack Reeves murdered Sharon or if she had taken her own life. 12 of Reeves' peers agreed on what happened 17 years earlier.
Defendant rise, please.
He raised a 20-gauge shotgun to his wife's chest and pulled the trigger. Jack Reeves was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison.
Always is in a case like that where you know someone's taken somebody else's life and you can take that person off the street. You know you're going to get some decent time out of it. That's not even the most important part. The most important part is he's going to finally have to answer for something that he thought he'd covered up 17 years ago, and he's never going to be able to do it again.
But detectives Buddy Evans and Tom Lenore were not finished with Jack Reeves. They still wanted him prosecuted for the murder of his third wife, Emolita, whose remains were recovered a year after she disappeared. With a warrant, investigators had searched the house where Jack and Emolita lived.
There were some particular articles of jewelry that we were told if they were in that house that Emolita's gone, she's dead, because she never would have left without them. So if I were to believe that Emolita walked out of that house and left, she walked out of that house with absolutely nothing that she owned. And I thought it was even more intriguing is she walked out of that house and left her child. And she's not going to do that.
Another key piece of evidence developed after detectives received a call from Reeves' family. They said Reeves called them from jail, requesting they go to the house and get Emolita's cell phone out of a leather jacket he left behind. He told them not to tell police. At Reeves' second murder trial, Bosque County prosecutors presented evidence to support their theory of what had happened to Emolita. They believed she had mentioned leaving him because of his abuse. He became enraged, struck her, then strangled her. Evidence found in the garage indicated what happened next.
At the time of Emolita's disappearance, Jack Reeves took a perfectly good sofa, gutted it, got rid of it. We don't know where it went. The sofa's gone and Emolita's gone at the same time, and our theory at that point in time was she was transported in that sofa.
The 6-day Bosque County trial featured 70 witnesses and 227 pieces of evidence. Jack Reeves was found guilty of Emolita's murder on August 19, 1996. He was given the harshest possible sentence, 99 years, to run concurrently with his sentence for Sharon's murder. To date, all of his appeals have been denied.